when it comes to doing your nails, the prep stage is really important. And the first thing we're going to do is deal with the cuticle area here. So I've got some of the MYLEE cuticle remover, which has a lovely scent from having the peppermint oil in. And all you're going to want to do with this is squeeze a little bit out and pop that around your cuticle. You're then going to leave that to sit on there for about a minute, just to let it take action. You don't want to leave it on too long, a minute should be enough. And while I'm letting that sit there, we've got two different things we can use, tools wise, for our cuticles. So we've got the metal cuticle pusher that I've got here. Now this is quite a sharp tool, this is the MYLEE tool. Please be careful using this, not only on the skin of your cuticles, but also on your nail plate. The last thing we want to be doing is digging that into our nail plate when we're trying to remove any cuticle from the area and causing damage. So your other option is what's commonly known as an orange wood stick. So this is a much gentler tool, it's made of wood, it's not quite as severe as the metal, so this is what I'm going to use today. So now we've let our remover sit for a little while, I'm just going to take the orange wood stick and I'm just going to gently push the cuticle. We don't want to be pushing under the skin, we don't want to be being forceful at all with this. We're just gently pushing along, making sure that any cuticle, which is the dry skin that you get on the nail plate around this area, not this piece of skin, this is working on the nail plate to remove any dead cuticle. I'm going to take that right round, down into the sides, and make sure we've got all of that nice and clean and any dead skin is removed. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a nice surface for your products to attach. So clean that off there, and then just a little bit of prep and wipe from MYLEE and give that a good clean. So now we've dealt with our cuticles, we want to prepare the nail plate, and what I'm going to use to do that is I'm going to use the MYLEE 100 to 180 grit file. So the smaller the number, the smoother the surface. So the 100 side, the yellow side, is a lot smoother than the 180 side, which is quite a bit rougher. So for prepping your nails, you only really need the 180 side, to be honest with you. And all we're going to do with that is we're just going to slightly rough up the nail plate. So not applying pressure, and just see how that's removing the shine. And all we're doing is creating a nice surface for our base coat to stick to when we move on to that part of the process. So just give that around the cuticles. Anywhere you're going to want to put your gel, you want to have that gentle etching into the surface of the nail plate. You can do this with a buffer if you feel like that's enough. Personally, I prefer to use a file and get a really good etch in there. But just remember, be gentle. You don't want to cause any damage to your nail plate. If anything starts feeling hot or you're getting discomfort or redness, then stop. You don't need to be filing that hard. So I'm pretty happy that I've covered all of the nail plate there with my file. So again, with your MYLEE Prep and Wipe solution, give everything a good clean, remove any dust. So now we've got our nice prepped little nail here. I am going to show you how to extend the nail using tips and polygel. So I've got here my polygel in all three colours. So we've got pink, clear and nearly nude. So I'm going to use the clear for this video. And I'm also going to use, I've got a box of tips. These are just the tips that I like to use in the stiletto shape. And that is because I tend to go for, like I said in previous videos, an almond oval shaped nail. So when you're sizing up your nail tip, if I show you this one here, you don't want to be fitting your nail tip down here. If you put your nail tip this far down, you can see the nail plate there. You're only going to have a tiny area for your product to grip to. The glue holding the tip will be strong, but it isn't going to be as strong and it isn't going to adhere as well as the polygel product. So you want to be placing your tip just at the end. So if I do that and pop this down, what you can see if I turn my nail to the side is there's a slight overhang on either side of the side wall. So that tip is too big for my nail. So if we were to go the other way and get a small tip, yeah, it will fit, but I'm really having to force that down onto there to get it to fit. And that is not going to give you a decent base for you to structure your nail. And if I just place that on top, you can see it's nowhere near it is. It's just too small. So if we go up a size from that one and grab one of these. So this one just places down comfortably onto the nail. It's fairly close with the side walls. It's maybe a touch wide, but what you can do is, if your tip is a little bit big, is just grab your file. And as usual, I'm using the MYLEE 100 to 180 grit file. And I like to file down this way so that I'm not going one side then the other side, and that's going to keep the amount that I take off equal on both sides. So we just pop a little bit off the tip, and that now is a nice fit from sidewall to sidewall, which is where you want your tip to be fitted. So I'll pop that out of the way. And what we're going to do next, grab our glue. I'm just using some brush on glue from Amazon. Any nail glue will do. Please use nail glue, not super glue or anything crazy like that I've heard of people doing. And you just want to pop a tiny little bit of glue along the edge of that tip on the inside that you're going to adhere to your nail. You don't need a huge amount. And then to make sure it's straight, I like to come down from this angle and just pop that nail tip on there and hold it in place to let the glue dry. Doesn't take long, maybe 5 or 10 seconds, but just hold it firmly in place. You can double check all your angles. If it's a slight wonk, for want of a better word, I mean that's not ideal, but I can salvage that with shaping. If it's really off to one side, just take it off and start again. Trim the length down, soak the tip off with either 100% acetone or with the MYLEE gel remover solution. Mine's almost empty, but that will also soak your tip off nice and quickly. So now that's firmly in place. I don't want to do a nail that long. If I'm using tips, I tend to work off the rule of I don't want to go any longer here than the length I've got here. So to keep a nice balance, I wouldn't want to go any longer on this nail than about here, because that's about the length again of my nail bed. I am going to go slightly shorter than that again, to be honest with you. So I'm going to use some tip cutters. You can just use, if you haven't got tip cutters, you can just use a set of nail clippers and just clip one side then the other to take the length down. And all you do with your tip cutters is just pop that in there, take a bit of length off. And then when you're doing this, if you are going to do what I'm doing and round the sides off, you need to think about the fact that's going to take your length down slightly again. That's still a little bit long for my liking, but it's better to take the length down in stages. You can take more away, but you can't put any back. So once I'm happy with that, what I'm going to do is take my 100 to 180 grit file, and using the rougher side, so the 100 side, I'm going to shape this nail tip. So I'm going to come in, following up the shape of my finger, and I'm going to start working side to side, bringing the sides in and essentially just taking the corners off that nail tip. You can do this shape with a square tip, however, with the stiletto tips that I'm using, you've just got a little bit left to remove. And then once you've taken the corners off, you start curving around the end of the nail. And because I had that slight swift, I'm just going to take a little bit more off this side. So you can rescue it if it's only slight. I do have a bit of a bendy finger, to be honest, so it does kind of curve that way anyway, so it isn't a big issue if I've got a slight angle on that nail. Just give it a little file underneath to remove any extra bits of tip that are lurking about. And at this stage, I would be pretty happy with that shape. I wouldn't do much more than that because you are going to finish file at the end and you can refine your shape even more then. So once you're happy with your shape, got any little bits off the end or the sides of the nail, you're then going to blend the nail tip to stop there being a ridge here where the nail tip meets the nail. Once we're happy with the rough shape, what we're now going to do is we're going to slightly blend this nail tip so that we don't have a ridge where the nail meets the tip. So you can see I've got a little ridge there. So to get that nice and smooth, I'm going to file the tip, not the nail. And all we're going to do is just, I like to pull my sides of my fingers away a little bit here and just very gently use the file to smooth that nail tip, smooth that ridge, and let that sit a little bit more flush. So again, filing the tip, not your nail. And that's just taking that a little bit smoother. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's unlikely that line's going to disappear. You just want to take down some of that ridge that we had there. Okay, so then, because we've got still a little bit of shine on this nail tip, I'm just going to use a white buffer. You do need to be relatively careful while you're working on the tip because it is just held on by that little bit of nail glue. All I'm doing is just removing the shine. There we go. So get our files out of the way, we don't need those. And we're going to get our prep and wipe and remove any dust from the surface of the nail and around the finger. And then next we want to base coat. So I'm again using the MYLEE base coat, and all we want to do with that is get a nice thin layer. So we're going to start a little bit away from the cuticle. As I always do, wiggle that brush back towards but not touching the skin. Come down the side walls and on the other side there. Make sure you've got full coverage and then bring that down onto the nail tip. And then once you've got your base coat applied, everything's covered, we can pop that in the lamp and that's going to cure for 60 seconds. So now that's cured, we've got our base coated nail here to start working on. And I'm going to grab my polygel. What I'm also going to need is the MYLEE Polygel slip solution, a little dappen dish or a little container to pour some of that into. And we're also going to need our MYLEE Polygel dual tool. So this has got a brush on one end and then a spatula on the other. Got a little bit of gel left on there from the last video I filmed, but that's not a problem. So let's get into the fun part. So we pop a little bit of our slip solution in here. Not too much, you don't want to waste it. You can always add more. And then we grab our tube of polygel. So again, this is the clear polygel that I'm using. And we're going to take roughly a small pea-sized amount. Pop that on our spatula, such a satisfying little pop noise. And then we're going to roll that into the middle of the nail. So, wipe the end of your spatula so you're not getting stuck to it. And then pop the brush into the slip solution. Make sure you squeeze out any air bubbles that might be in your brush. Wipe it along the side. You don't want a sopping wet brush. You don't want to create a sticky mess here. So drain the liquid off your brush and then you're ready to work. And you can see as well, while I've been doing that, that little piece of gel is going absolutely nowhere. You can do whatever you want with that and it's just going to sit there quite happily until you pop it where you want it to go. So a lovely product to work with because you've got plenty of time to start forming the nail. So that's about the right amount of slip on my brush. You can see it's moving the product, but it's not sticking into it. So the first thing we're going to do is work back towards the cuticle. And we're going to push that product so it's going near the cuticle, but not touching the skin. You can use the end of your brush to come round. Make sure that's nice and neat. And then we're going to start bringing the sides down here to create your side walls. You want to leave the bulk of your product on the top of your nail to create an apex, so create a nice curve coming here. That's going to make your nail nice and strong. So once you've done your cuticles and your sides, just start gradually pulling the rest of the product down the length of the nail towards the free edge. Make sure you're keeping your brush damp. If it starts sticking, it's time to go back into the slip solution. If you've brought it down too far, you can gently guide it back up where you want it to go. Keep going back to the cuticle area and the side wall area while you're moulding your polygel. You can see I have got a curve here. It's not quite as neat as we'd want it to be, so we can just go back and make sure that's a bit smoother. And then what I also do is I always look down the barrel of the nail so you can see it's almost kind of square, it's got little humps. So I'll then come over the top of the nail and create a sort of dome shape over here. Keep checking those sides, making sure you're not pushing the product down into the skin. And just keep looking at that nail, move your finger, move your hand, and make sure you're checking from all angles so that you've got a nice smooth structure. The smoother the finish as well, the less filing you're going to need to do at the end, which is always a bonus. Don't know about you guys, but filing is my absolute least favourite part of doing my nails. And again, just making sure you're all smooth around the cuticle. You've got a nice shape over the top of the nail. You've got your side nice and neat. And you've got your nice curve over the top. Obviously you can tidy this up a little bit with the file at the end, but like I say, if you can get it as near as possible before filing. Any little excess bits of gel you can sweep off with the spatula end of your tool. And again, that's going to mean less filing around your free edge. Make sure you're keeping the spatula end clean. And once you've got that where you want it to be, we're going to pop that in the lamp and we're going to give it a 60-second cure. Now, LED MYLEE Pro lamp. So once we've cured that nail, we've got a nice solid surface here. It will be slightly sticky. Sticky is fine, that's just the tacky layer. Squishy is not fine. So if it's soft and when you press on it, the nail starts changing shape, needs to go back in the lamp for another cure. It's not cured enough. So to remove that little tacky layer, we are just going to get some more of our prep and wipe solution. And we're going to give that nail a good clean. Give it a good rub around. Make sure you've got all the tacky or inhibition layer, as it's called, removed from that nail. And then we can start filing. So I'm going to use again the MYLEE 100 to 180 grit half moon file. And I'm going to use the pink side, which is the rougher side. So the 100 grit, the 180 is the yellow side. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by just refining the shape of my free edge. And again, going from side to side so that I'm not taking a load of shape out of one side and making things uneven. Little file underneath, and all that'll do is any little blobs of gel that have ventured underneath that you haven't managed to sweep off before you've cured, they'll just drop off like that little guy has there. We'll get rid of him. So, tidy up our free edge, get a nice neat shape, and then again looking down the barrel of the nail, I have still got a little bit here that's not ideal. So I'm going to, looking down the barrel of the nail, come over the top with my file. I'm going to bring this towards myself. Just to take a bit of that thickness I've got on there that I don't want down. And you don't have to file hard with polygel at all. It's a very strong, rigid gel, but it also files incredibly easily. So looking down the barrel of the nail, and I do this filing routine in slightly different orders on other videos, but that's just how it goes. It's just whatever works best for you. And then I'm going to come over the top because I want to create that nice curve, that nice dome shape there. Got a little bit on the side walls that I want to bring in. So not pressing into your finger, just resting on your finger ever so slightly. You should never be digging the file into your skin, just to bring that side wall straight, so it's coming straight out of the natural nail into the enhancement. Same on the other side. And if when you're doing this you feel like you're catching and your file's quite new and sharp, you can grab another file and you can just run that over the edges of a new file. So this angle, down that little corner shape, and that is going to take off any sharp edges and still leave your file fine to use. So what we're going to want to do next is do our side walls. So again, you're not digging in, you're not going down, you want to come over the top of the nail. Just gently file, just gradually, because you don't want to take off too much product. You just want to get those nice and smooth and neat. And on the other side, just curving that file round over the top of the nail. Get your shape. And then your cuticle area, again, not downwards, over the top. And the easiest motion to use here is a curving motion, coming round cuticle shape and just getting that nice and smooth and flush down into your side walls. And then you can bring that file down with your same little curving motions. And you can see we've got this lovely shape appearing now where we've got a nice smooth transition from the cuticle over the top of the nail down to the free edge. We're not creating a great big thick nail, we're just creating that nice smooth apex curve and a nice curve over the top, and that's going to give you a nice strong structure having those two curves in place. it's also going to give you a neater looking nail. So once you've filed your nail into the shape that you're happy with, got your curve over the top nice and smooth, you've got your apex nice and smooth and coming down in this curve shape, you can grab a buffing block, and just to refine that surface a little bit before we apply a top coat or a colour, just go over the whole surface of the nail. Don't be too firm when you're doing this because A, you'll throw your file at yourself, and B, you don't want to, because this files so easily, you don't want to start messing with the integrity and the shape that you've just created. So just sweep over the nail, get it all nice and neat and smooth. I do tend to come around the free edge as well, just to make sure that's nice and smooth as well. There's no little bits that are going to catch. And then, when you're happy with that, grab your prep and wipe and remove any dust from the nail and finger. So you can see I've used the clear polygel here. Now that does mean if you've got any little imperfections, you are going to be able to see them. So if you've got, if you're a bit of a nail biter like I can be, or you've got any little imperfections on the nail plate or anything like that, I would maybe use the Nearly Nude or the Perfect Pink, because they're going to give you a little bit of colour on there, and that's going to hide any little imperfections that you've got. Any bits that you're not proud of, like bitten bits like mine are sometimes. So we've got that nice and clean. We're going to go in with our MYLEE No Wipe Top Coat. So this is just my preference to use the no wipe. You don't need to cleanse after you've used this top coat. And again, the same way I applied the base coat, looking at the nail, pop your brush down, give it a little wiggle, up near your cuticle, but not touching your skin, and then come down into your side walls, making sure you've got a nice even coating. And then once you've got all of that covered, you can pop that in the lamp and give it a 60-second cure. Okay, so our nail is cured. Nice smooth surface there. No sticky layer to be removed. So we can pop that away. And then I'm just going to finish with the MYLEE Nail and Cuticle Oil with sweet almond oil. This smells lovely. So I'm just going to pop a little blob on there. Give that a good massage in to the nail and the skin around it. I seem to have picked up a little bit of fluff there. Making sure you get underneath the nail as well with your oil, and disregarding that little bit of fluff that I've found. That is the finished nail. So if you wanted to paint that nail, you wouldn't go in and use your top coat straight away. You would leave the surface wiped clean after you've done your filing, and you go in and you start using some of your lovely MYLEE colours. You can create your nail art on top of there, whatever you want. So I hope you found that helpful. And if there's anything that you weren't clear on or maybe haven't explained very well, please feel free to join the conversation in the comments, ask any questions, and come along to the MYLEE My Look Facebook page and join us over there, meet the other ambassadors, talk with other MYLEE users. We are currently running a weekly challenge where we pick a piece of artwork, share it in the group, and then we all have a go at creating little looks inspired by the artist, which is lots of fun, and I'd love to see what you can create out of that. Thanks for watching, guys. Please do give this video a like, subscribe, check out my other videos, and I'll see you soon. Bye.